I'd like to call the special meeting of the Board of Trustees of ISD for today, July 12, 2016, starting at 5:40. And I believe that the record show that we have a annual claims of the vote. Okay, I'm tired. Here.
Here.
And next, Karen Hush.
Everybody here for your prayer? Stand if you like. Dear Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to serve you each and every day. Please give us all the wisdom we need to make the best decisions for the children of the district. Please give the people that are helping us design this building the wisdom and power also to do the greatest job they have capable of their abilities. We thank you for all you give us. We thank you for all you are. In your name we pray. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3, ISD Bond 2016 updates.
Trustees, we have our friends from LPA with us this evening, and I'm very pleased that they're with us. We've been up to quite a bit along with them and staff across the district, working really hard on the designs for our fine arts facility, as well as for our pre-kindergarten, fifth grade school in the north sector of our district. And today, they're going to be presenting where we currently are with that, hoping to generate some discussion, answer some questions, and get some feedback from you guys as we move forward.
This comment on board members, thank you for having us. We appreciate the time it's been with us tonight. It's always great to get your feedback. I'm Mark Woodhouse. I'm going to let the team introduce themselves. Michelle, say what you will.
I'm Senior Project Manager at the school system.
I'm Federico Velasquez, so I'm the project architect on the fine arts facility and Central High School.
I'm Kate Brown, interior designer working on both the fine arts facility and the office.
Yeah, this team is one of the project architect for the other. Great, thanks guys. Just a real brief, how we're going to do this presentation. We're presenting two projects for the bond issue tonight. First of all, we're going to present the fine arts edition of the high school. And Kate Federico are going to walk you through that. We'll take a break for some questions on that presentation. And then we'll roll into the elementary school presentation. So, Kate, you want to get us started?
Absolutely. And we also have copies of the presentation that will be behind with all of you, so that will be some follow-up information. It's always such a privilege to come here. So I feel like every time we come to the board presentation, we always have something exciting to share with you all, and this is no different. So the first project is the new theater and auditorium at the high school, really completes the whole story of the campus. Overall, we're looking at just under 40,000 square feet addition instead of 75. You can see some of the facts about the new fine arts facility. It's basically going to be supporting the theater, the drama program, as well as the choir programs, adjacent to an auditorium. Now, the theater and the choir programs are really part of that high school and directly related to the curriculum. The auditorium is actually a little bit more unique. It will actually provide a resource for the entire district. So whether it's an elementary, middle, or high school event, the entire district will be able to utilize that auditorium. And we've gone through some design strategies that really help kind of tell that story as well. So it'll really allow for that kind of mixed-use type of facility. Additionally, there are some campus improvements. These renovations are some things that we'll highlight as we go through the presentation. It really starts to support some of those other performing arts functions and better utilize the campus. The overall budget is just under $15 million, so we're looking at that bottom piece of only 32. So this is basically kind of looking at the project size and the budget. budget, and as you can see along the bottom, there's a little bit of a schedule. Very generic. We've probably been working for about 6 weeks now. We've gone through 5 meetings with the committee on the theater, and the project will open in June of 2018. So just a little bit of scope overview. If we look at the aerial of the campus, we're talking about 4 different areas of scope. The first is the theater, which is really that main program function with the arts, choral, and rehearsal spaces. We're also talking about renovating those elements within the existing band hall and the gym, which will support that band and ensemble rooms. It's really about making better utilization of the space and looking at some of the existing storage and reconfiguring that to make it more functional. Additionally, the South Campus gym is going to be modernized to support the dance program. And then there's 2 other small pieces on the other side of the campus that will also support dance and cheer. You can see that that's located next to that student services center. So all these components are things that we'll touch on today. We'll spend most of, I think about the 15-20 minutes that we have with you for the theater on the theater portion, and a little bit to review just the renovations as well. So one of the things we wanted to start with is some of the components. There's a lot of kit and parts that go into the theater, and before we show you anything that really looks like architecture or design, we wanted to give you an understanding of what those pieces are. The components that are in gold and blue are the educational pieces, so that's where you can see some of the more teaching stations. All the drama program is on the left in gold, so we have a drama classroom that's 1,000 square feet, dressing rooms that support both the drama classroom and we can also be used to support the theater space. There's also storage and scene shop. Scene shop is really the place where you're building a lot of those sets. Sometimes it's where you're receiving any sets that other facilities or other factors might be renting and kind of coming into the site. So a lot of these program functions start to tell you about where they want to be based on how they're utilized. One of the other really unique pieces about the drama is we actually looked at something that used to be a black box when we talked about it from the master plan. It was a really small theater, but after maybe it was even the first meeting and talking with the users in the district, the functionality of having just a black box really only served one function, and that was just small theater performances. And the committee really decided that to make that space more usable, take that square footage and put it into what we're calling a rehearsal room. The rehearsal room is really unique functionality. It can also have performances within it. It's going to be located close to the lobby, so that can still be a function. But it'll also be a space where you can have rehearsals for a show while the stage is being set up for a band performance. So there's kind of this multi-functioning or simultaneous aspects. It's almost like if you had a gym and a cafeteria in an elementary school, so you know you have 2 things going on. That's really what this can be supposed to do. The auditorium itself is just over 10,000 square feet. We're going to see about 1,000 visitors in that space, and we're 999 is kind of what our target number is for that auditorium, and then the stage that supports that space. One of the other things that we'll note about the rehearsal room, and you'll see this throughout the diagrams, is that the rehearsal room and the stage are going to have similar proportions, and that's what's really helping students understand what they're moving into as they get into that more technical space in the theater. The choir program, series, sound recording, ensemble, a lot of these are the spaces that really support a robust choir program. There's some other things that we discussed with the team, things like keyboarding and some other ensemble rooms. So there might be overlap with some of these spaces, but it's really going to almost double some of the square footage that they're currently using right now. And then the last piece on the end there is just really support spaces that support both the students on the campus as well as the public visiting that theater. So as we talked about the 5 or 6 meetings that we had, one of those first meetings was really taking the input and the program numbers that we had from kind of the kit parts of what will go into the theater, and really starting to understand what the vision of the users and the vision of the district would be for that space. So we took them through an exercise of sort of a site analysis, as well as going through imagery. So sometimes just looking at images of other spaces and starting to look for cues, we call it visual listening. And so we gave everyone ready green dots and gave them a chance to understand or to tell us what they wanted to see in the space, and talk not necessarily just about aesthetics, but how space would perform based on that. And so with that as an overview, we'll have a little bit of repeat when we look at the elementary school, because we did a lot of the same type of process. So we can look at that as well, but I'm going to hand it over to Federico to talk about the design of the space.
Federico, thanks for giving me the time to talk to you. As Kate touched on, it's really been a great collaborative process so far with Joel and Shane and all this time. So, first thing I want to do is identify where the fine arts facility is going to be on the East Central High School campus. So what we're looking at is currently a parking lot just to the east of the gymnasium, just north of the band hall. And what I'm going to do is walk you through kind of our analysis of what's going on the site, because that really informs our design. So here at the site, we have setbacks along the road, 20 feet off of the east, 30 to the south, 30 between buildings. We do understand all the program, all the buildings that are around it, how they're being used, the cafeteria, the fine arts wing, the band hall, and the gym. And as designers, we're always aware of where north is, how the sun is acting on this particular site, and where the wind is coming, in this case, in the southeast. We're also very aware of how students are currently moving around this parking lot. There's a lot of lobbies that face onto this. There's a lobby for the gymnasium, the lobby for the band hall, and a lobby for the cafeteria, all kind of releasing into this area. So it's a great opportunity to capture all of that energy and make a great new statement for the campus itself. But like we said, this is also a district-wide facility, so we're also aware of how people who aren't necessarily students are going to be seeing this particular site. They'll be driving alongside it to the east, and they'll be parking in the parking lot and approaching from the front. So here's the kind of the big idea. So I was doing research on fine arts theaters, and I found this really great diagram that describes how performances are put together. So what we're looking at here is the timeline of a performance. It's about 15 weeks typically. And all we ever see when we're visiting is the final 2 weeks of performance. We never actually see the design of the performance that's being prepared, or the sets being built, or the rehearsals. Well, this being a school, we thought this was a really great opportunity to put that whole process on display. Also found this other great diagram which talks about how each time you put on a performance, it's really a feedback. So at the end of the performance, the teachers and the students know a little bit more than previously, and that should inform the next performance. So we kind of redrew that diagram. So here's that timeline recreated, and really we were thinking of it as more of a feedback loop. So what we did is we really identified those rooms that Kate was talking about that associate with each one of these phases, the design of the performance, learning, and then the rehearsal and the creation of all the pieces of the performance, and then the performance itself. So we started to tie together these rooms to that program. We thought, well, what if we just take that feedback loop and wrap it around that auditorium? So what you're looking at here is the auditorium in the center with that kind of loop of performance all around it. Now, we don't have enough rooms to actually wrap the entire auditorium. It's a big auditorium, so there's going to be gaps. But that's okay. That gives us a really great opportunity for entries. We're smart about how we lay out the plan. It's really going to be a benefit for the high school. So, looking from above, that exact program diagram, how it relates to the lobby, you start to see that what we're thinking is of having an entry that relates to the parking lot to the north and to the lobby of the community. Having a student entry that relates to the exit of the band hall and the cafeteria itself. And then a secondary entrance if anyone happens to park across the street and wants to walk across. So that's a 3D view. Basically the size of this program, the size of all the rooms, and how they sit on the parking lot. So in general, that reiterating that same diagram, which is this idea of there being performance support spaces on this side, those spaces that support design, such as classrooms and choir rooms, and the rehearsal space and shop areas towards the south. I'll walk through the plan in more detail, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what's happening outside of the building first. So, again, reiterating where entries would be in the building, where stairs would be located on either end of what will be the second story. And kind of an understanding of basically how the building might serve its different users. So by community, I mean anyone in the district. This plan will give people the opportunity the teachers the opportunity to secure the lobby for the auditorium and have basically the students home together classrooms. Just outside the building, we're thinking that we could have an entry plaza that greets anyone in their performance to the northwest. Kind of an arts courtyard is created, surrounded by the band hall and the fine arts facility, with an arcade that connects the two, kind of service alley just to the south. These spaces here are all about the community, all about making a great presence, a great entryway for the campus. So I'm going to walk you through the plan now. So what you're looking at is the first floor on the left and the second floor on the left. And the way that this works is the heart of all this is that auditorium. We're looking at a circular shaped auditorium. It's the most efficient and most important lines. And it really will have a great presence in the lobby. The lobby wraps around that, the supporting spaces, restrooms, room attending, a box office, concessions, and an office for potential future productive position. In this student zone here, what we're looking at is basically having rooms that support the drama program along it. So the drama classroom, restrooms for the students with a separate restroom for the faculty, dressing rooms just adjacent to the stage, the shop where the scene and costumes are being made. And this is that great rehearsal room. We're just so excited about it. We've never seen anything like that. And we really like this location relative to the street. We really think it would be a great kind of focal point along that facade that will really animate the arrival to the school and the facility itself. Just off of the auditorium, we have lots of great room for storage and props. On the second floor, which is entered by the stairwell here or here, is all of the program that supports the music program. So that would be the theory and keyboard classroom, the staff student restroom, so you don't have to go down to the first floor to the restroom, ensemble rooms, and an office for choir director. And then this is kind of the great space of that program that's required. So we really want to make this an element that has a great presence on this art supporting that I was talking about before. Then we have a couple other spaces. We have storage here. We have our sound booth overlooking the stage, and we'll have areas for follow spots on either side. And this area here on the north is the mezzanine where anyone entering or exiting the second floor of the auditorium can either come up this ramp and then be accessible seating or have a direct entry. So before we got into how this building looked, we wanted to understand how your buildings look now. Luckily, we designed them, so we have a really good understanding of it. But just looking at the lobby of the gym, which is just adjacent, one thing that we noticed is that there's always this great kind of beautiful screening element that protects the lobby from the harsh eastern light. There's always whenever there's an entry element, there's a great overhanging roof. And there's also this amazing floor-to-ceiling glass that really makes that space really. So we just love that diagram, and we took that and we merged it with kind of the way that the building's working, thinking of an idea of an overhanging roof. There's 3 pieces of the program. What you're going to look at is a view of the lobby to the auditorium. It looks something like this. So we've got that same kind of organization of elements where we have our screen to protect the lobby from the harsh western light. We've got our overhanging roof that defines kind of lobby entry. We've got our floor-to-ceiling glass that's really been emphasis on protecting the lobby. So other things that you see, this is the area where the box office is going. These are the classrooms that are going to be back. I don't want to pretend that we have the whole building designed yet, but this is a first pass over. So a view from the arts corridor is something like this. So what we're looking at here is the lobby for the students. We have our bathrooms here. So this is that choir space, that safe kind of treatment of screens. These are the bathrooms and classrooms. This is the shop. Just a view approaching the road. You see this is a view of that great rehearsal room here that will really have a presence along the street. We're thinking of having a great screen element that's very similar to the screen that you have at the gymnasium that could really function like a big lighting element or something to announce the program or what's going on inside of the building. So I'm going to jump to the other campus improvements now. So talk a little bit about the band hall being just to the south of the finance. What we're looking at doing here is coming in with a very light touch with maximum effectiveness for your money. So you already have a really great hall, but there are some deficiencies. There's not adequate practice rooms and there's not adequate storage for instruments. So what we're proposing is basically new practice rooms that are better proportioned, better built than what we have. We're also looking at converting the existing black box and ensemble room into better working spaces that are supported by offices on each of the spaces, so there's always supervision from the units. This will also allow you to have up to 4 faculty members that support this program. We have a lot of great areas for storage just along those rooms. So what we're thinking in the great band hall here is storage along the north and the south, and actually adding an overhead door on the north and the south, so that anyone in the band hall can have direct access to the new rehearsal room just to the north. We're also going to capture some of the stage that's not being used for additional storage. So we're really tripling the storage they have now.
Before we go back one, you guys see that that's on the left, that's the existing theater classroom, the existing choir classroom will become part of the band hall. And then to the left of that, the staging for furniture, that's the stage in the cafeteria. So we'll be taking part of that stage to add additional storage, perhaps uniform storage for the band. The idea is you don't need the full stage for performance, but you do need the stage for like honor society inductions and different types of campus events that aren't necessarily theater or musical performances, because we're going to now have the ability to do that in 2 different spaces in the performance.
What about towards the end, you said that in the great band hall, there's storage there. Are those existing signs or those going to be bigger?
Those are new lockers. That's all the lockers.
There's some that are okay, some not that are. That's what we're okay with. The biggest problem is they're kind of like stacked on top of each other. So we're going to try to disperse all the storage around to some of the other rooms. That way the kids will go and they can that.
You guys talk about too on the band hall side where currently the director's offices are.
Yes.
So
Basically, I'll walk you through the plan in greater detail. So in the big band hall, what we're looking at is the director's office here on the north side, here on the south side. Then we always have good visibility of what's going on on the business side. Those are currently offices, so we basically just want to line up these. And we're going to take the spaces just to the north and to the south of that for additional storage. There's currently a restroom here, so we'll do it. Across the hall, in the ensemble room, what we have is there's no storage directly accessible from it. So what we're doing is we're going to add this partition here, punch a hole, and this storage will serve the ensemble directly. This storage will face on the building. This ensemble room will have an office just on the northwest side and storage on the northeast side. This room here is costume storage. So the locker on either side and the center. Change this ensemble room here, and similar idea with the office here, storage here. This is the area in the back of the stage that Roland was talking about, where we have some storage.
one of the feature I wanted to point out for the trustees is the roll-up doors you mentioned. Currently that's a wall, there's no door there. The concept is a roll-up door there so that the entire band can get out and into the performing arts center, perhaps. And then on the south end, there's currently glass doors with the mullion in between there. They have to take that mullion out, pop those doors open so they get the xylophones and all the band equipment out. They actually do it every day before marching practice to go out and to come back in. So this is an opportunity to roll the door there so that that's a more optimal situation. So just wanted to point those things out. Those are elements that the directors kind of gave feedback on.
And the district doesn't have a second like orchestra or mariachi program now, but it's some point in the future we might. And I think the band director and the fine arts department they really wanted us to make sure we were cognizant of that, so that they can kind of set this up so that were something that happened. Decisions to make that. I think
We'll actually put the plans up on the easel and you can speak in some more detail. So I'm going to talk about the second modernization portion. That is the South Campus gym. This is an idea that we want to keep the functionality of this space as a gym, as a basketball court, but also have amenities that support dance and cheer. So the things that will be needed are things like ballerina rails, mirrors. So what we're proposing is there are currently bleachers along the left side on this plan here, and here, just off of the entryway. So the idea is to simply replace those bleachers with big storage rooms. Those storage rooms will hold mobile ballerina rails and mobile mirrors that the dance instructor will wheel in and wheel out whenever they're going to be with their campus. And that allows the gym to still function as a basketball court. It allows us to take advantage of this growing floor that's there for dance, which is great. And it's a really simple way to make really reduce this.
The other thing for those storages would be the tumbling mats for cheer. And we really put those mats right in there and stay right out on the floor. Currently, they're in that gym. Just would move them up behind the athletic office to the side. So the back gym will have several functions. Softball will probably move into the locker room space. We'll talk here in a minute about the new locker room space, or repurposing the space into locker room space for cheer dance in proximity with this. Within that gym, it opens that gym up for things like winter guard, the flags, because they need a really tall ceiling and to get an indoor facility in the summer when it's really hot, as well as in the winter during the competition season when it's windy, cold, and rainy. We don't have a facility for them to be able to do that at this time. So it opens it up to that, as well as for like baseball and softball and soccer. They can, in inclement weather, they can have an additional indoor facility that won't have dance and cheer in, because those sports traditionally on the wood floors, we can put down a paint on there because of the shrinking, and they have to bring gear that's not typical for their sports.
That concludes the presentation portion.
So we can take a few minutes to answer any other detailed questions, or if anyone wants to look at the computer a little bit more, and then maybe just a quick break and everyone can get a drink, and then we'll switch to the elementary school.
What was your point about the risk that this kind of bouncing back a little bit, kind of complex place? We got this document next to it, just to the north of that gym, on the west side of it. So we'll build that into two locker rooms, one for dance, one for cheer, both for JV varsity capability, bathrooms and showers, and we'll probably also develop a couple of sets, small locker rooms to do both of those teams. As they grow, they become young members, cheer members, and now dance members. So we'll make sure we're accommodating on that. So we have that. We did a test fit in another building, at hall, and then all the shuffling around and around. Just recently, I think we maybe at all not the best place to live. So we just got to get those up and shuffle back to the rest.
Yeah, just some things to talk about. You know, soccer and baseball are in the locker rooms that are connected to that gymnasium. We had thought maybe we could move those programs to Gym 3, which would an early brainstorm, but that moves them further from their facility. And when we looked at the condition of those facilities, we had done some renovations in there and HVAC, put some heating cooling systems in there, and they're about as nice as they're going to get. To retrofit those for cheer and dance was probably not the wisest move going forward. So we started looking at other spaces, Ed Hall being one of them, which is adjacent to the boys' field house. And we could easily retrofit that to be a space for cheer and dance, but we're really thinking out as far out as we may be before we have a second high school. We're out 4,000 students or so. How big is our football program get? Do we end up being additional space for a freshman team or something down the road, if you've kind of got a cheer and dance. So we want to, if we can, keep that space for now in case we grow into it later, and see if there were other options for cheer and dance. So we're looking at another option, actually closer to South Campus Gym. Student services building, child nutrition programs in there right now. The space is similar at all. Really think that we can probably superimpose almost a similar plan that they conceptualized for South Campus right into that space. And we can make that cheer and dance with all the amenities to include even the fact that you got boy cheerleaders and girl cheerleaders, I mean boy cheerleaders and boy dance leaders. You know, you gotta have, right now they go to other facilities and they come practice. It's specific to come. All of them.
We'll have we actually have to have to all the week. So we'll show this people these.
And again, if we're moving child nutrition, the concept was that's to be where the juggling offices currently are. When we make that nice command, we move child nutrition and tie into that entire office space. Those are all kind of some of the concepts. Big picture, kind of looking at this, what you guys are doing.
I think we might be got a pretty common show
So it's in progress, but you can see how big it is. It's a big building. The house itself is 44 feet tall. So we're trying to use the lobby to bring that down to about supports 2 stories.
That's looking from the cafeteria.
Here's that student lobby there, the choir room. This is the stacked classrooms. Back here, this is the shop area. Here. This is that rehearsal room.
This is the rehearsal room will have a window open so that as people drive by, the kids are in the rehearsal, will actually be able to see.
I think the facility is going to be
And did you say something about that elevator on the outside having some type of ability to have announcements on it or something?
well, we can do that. That gets pretty
Yeah.
expensive. We spent $50,000 on a school board football field. I really don't.
Whoa!
It's a screen.
Yeah, there's a lot of strategies that we can use. So there could be like banner clips types of thing that you can do later, and you can have your own students design those and then have them printed and put up there. Look at projecting on the interior of the lobby wall so that through the glass you see projection can be done pretty cost effectively. We've done that before. So there's a lot of ways that we can kind of like share with you.
Y'all driven by downtown at night by the new hospital that lights up. You know, LED lights now are very cost effective to do those kind of building washes. So we can use that screen and build and wash that screen. You know, black, gray, yellow, just, something like that. I mean, I think it'd be 30%. But I said, that's really going to be sort of like over for the other times. So we're going to get that side. So we're going to do something that we work on that. And I think we got some good.
It'd be great to have that like LED lighting system and then have a coding class somewhere else that's actually coding the systems or, putting music to it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Designing that whole.
I love for it to be an active like that.
Presentation. We're actually talking about bringing some of the capability to have somebody in class to be able to broadcast performance out of the lobby, so you can see it outside of the actual.
We were discussing how, different folks could help contribute toward that cost, like consultants.
Have you seen their books now? I think that's a good. They're all there.
we haven't had a chance, we had a couple of great sessions with your feedback. We get to work with a lot of schools, and let me just tell you, I hope y'all know how good the teachers are. They are excited, passionate, that's why this program is on. This kind of gives school, and it won't matter who the teacher is, you know, they're going to have a great school, really apply that trade, and give the kids an opportunity to do well.
It's been a while, but it's been that time.
You mentioned that this project will be completed in 2018.
Yes, that's good.
Beginning of the school year.
Beginning of the school year.
Another thing that they mentioned is, just to kind of point that out again, a lot of these ideas like that rehearsal room, that came from the teachers. I mean, they jumped on it and they took it and ran with it and did something really good with that idea. But that originally came from the teachers.
That's really exciting. I'm glad share that. I appreciate that because otherwise, you know what I mean? If it's not, they're not given the opportunity to expand on it like that, they might just go on something that would work better.
We're thinking just to get central, a little bit of competitive. Still be able to have full rehearsals on stage. That's the biggest limitation, not being able to rehearse on stage until the day before. This will allow for such capacity to practice. Even for weaving off quick stage elements that might get away with another performance. It doubles as a preview as well for the actors and waiting on stage. So it's going to be good.
So did you bake?
Not for this meeting, but my request that's considered. Yeah, that would not go over well. Chips are good.
I would ask you, if you were an attorney, but all three of them should be free. If you were local, you should well, Hunter, he's a boy. But his daddy's Polish.
I know.
The other two boys, they're twins. And one of them is Michael, the other one is Michael, they're young. Yeah, they're up there.
I'm blocking the camera? Oh, no, you're good. We're using that one up there, too.
Hey, make sure that you do not put me in.
Oh,
If you do, then use the tall lens.
Blur me out.
They're real tall, well, I'm real tall.
Okay, I'll do that.
Not the wide lens, I got enough.
No, mine's white.
They were bigger. They were all yeah. And I told her that. So the first day came, he was going to sit up on Friday, he was going to sit up right there outside my place. No, they went through the whole area over there. It's open. Tomorrow, we don't have all their selling going on. So I'm glad.
I'm not into it.
Stevie's right there. Stevie's, I saw people in there.
Read the file. That's
Pretty good, I like that.
Still working.
No, I think they finalized it today.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Birthday.
Happy birthday, dear Roland. Happy birthday to you.
I didn't hear Sam singing. I know it. Thank you.
Oh, nice.
As long as it drinks water, you'll make it.
Y'all ready to get going? All right.
Was it Matt's idea?
Yes, for sure, Matt's
Hey, I'm going to do that. That's gone on now for the elementary school. Yeah, that's their computer. The other computer. All right, ready? For the budget.
Yeah.
All
right.
The peanut gallery back there. No, I have
Basically, to talk about the war on the complex.
So we're going to talk, give you a little bit of an update on the elementary school, which has been a lot of fun too. And shared Dallas, here's our building blocks. When we first started, we all started stacking those up and trying to see if we could come up with creative ways for schools. We met 4 or 5 times. Nate and Steve are going to give you some stuff about the school, but I was going to talk to you a little bit just about sort of our process. We are here just at the beginning of our overview piece and developing concept, and we're headed down the road to finally amassing. You're going to see the whole picture. Conceptually, we've got a school that's going to, we started out programming around 89,000 square feet. As we got into that, we talking with the principal, understood well, there's some things we need to make sure we accommodate. We believe we can accommodate the school at closer to about 94,000 square feet with some extra classrooms to give the school a little bit of flexibility. So the capacity is probably going to be closer to 920 or 930 versus 850. So that's what we're looking for. We're at cost, our bond cost on this project is for $1,150,000. Schedule on this one as well. We're working towards opening the school the same time frame as the fine arts building will open in the fall of 2019. So, site. We are, as you probably know, at the intersection of 1346 and 1518. So one of the things that Roland told us when we started the project, that the only real concern we got out of the community was to make sure we had a good understanding of what's going to happen with traffic. So we really tried to pay attention to that. We literally tried to get some assessment of traffic without doing a traffic study scientifically. We did an unscientific version and said, right now the local traffic is coming probably from the south, from 1346 and 1518 to the south, maybe a little bit from the east, and just a little bit from the north. So we need to make sure on that site that we can accommodate traffic from all accomplish their mission. The site itself is roughly a 50-acre site, 59 acres, 1,000-foot long frontage on 1518. This little notch here is a house. It's remaining along within the property. There's some good opportunities for access around the site. One of the things that we wanted to make sure we protected for the district was the ability to develop the rest of the site for the junior high
all the parts that go into the elementary set we have. But I went on this slide.
So just like we looked at the theater, we're starting to look into what those gift cards are. It's really how we start looking at it as well. You can see there's 6 classrooms per grade level, and throughout the program process with the team, we were talking about needing some extra space. So we've added the 2 pre-K that you can see highlighted in yellow, and then we've also added 2 extra swing classrooms. So whether those are 3rd grade, 4th grade, they become available from kind of some of those years that start to go up. And those are going to be located, once we look at the plan, in locations where it really just becomes something that you could, flexibly use that space. There's 1 science lab and 1 computer lab. There's also a fine arts class space, which is music and arts, and that's going to be adjacent to that cafeteria and auditorium space that you see on the top right in purple. And then the library program. The library is really unique. It's going to actually have to support everyone from pre-K all the way to the 5th graders. So where the classrooms are very much unique to their own grade level, the library, the auditorium start to become some of those places where you start to see those proximity. The gym's about 6,000 square feet, and there's special ed programs, and then everything that you see in blue on the bar at the bottom really just summarizes a lot of the support space. There's a lot of staff restrooms, building support. Overall, as Mark said, this project is extremely large. It's almost 100,000 square feet. We're at 92 or 94 right now. And so that's just kind of an overview of what all those program pieces are. We did something similar with this project where we actually met with all the staff at John Glenn. And so we had probably 30 teachers ranging from pre-K through even 5th grade came over. We had special education faculty members as well, and just did a really broad brush at how can we define what the learning environment wants to be for this elementary school. We looked at a presentation, we showed some case studies, got initial feedback. We talked about some sort of things that you would want to keep or really use from your existing school, not from a functionality, or not from a physical standpoint, but just from how things work. What are things that really work well, and how would you want to see that kind of in the new building again. And then we did the same visual listening exercise where we went through a lot of images by space type and started to look at what types of things really started to support the learning environment. And you can see some of the images on the bottom start to talk to that. And it's not too dissimilar from some of the topics we talked about during master plans. Collaboration spaces that support some of those learning environments, spaces where students can come together, flexibility, so that's something like circulation, but it might also be a learning space so that learning really happens everywhere. And images that aren't up here but are really significant also were outdoor learning environments. So that was something that, whether it was under shaded area for the play or just like some of those upper grade level classrooms, those would support the elementary program as well. So it was a really fun day. We were there for, I think it was like a 4-hour session. So it was a really great opportunity to get a lot of input from the faculty or the staff before they left for the summer break. So since then, we've had probably another 4 meetings where we started to go through the zoning of the campus and talk about how the experience in the elementary school wants to be. So as I mentioned, pre-K through 5, it's really important to kind of look at how those two feel really distinct. So we've started to separate the pre-K through 1 in one wing, which is off to the right-hand side of your screen, and then taking up to the north is the 2nd graders through the 5th graders. Now it's a lot more grade levels, so we start to talk about how to maybe stack those programs, where we put 2nd and 3rd graders on the 1st floor, and then the 4th and 5th graders on the 2nd floor. One of the benefits is that it's much more of a compact footprint on the site, and it's also on the back side of the site. When we look at some of the aerials and kind of the adjacency to the campus, you'll see that that 2-story component is behind the single-story component, so the approach to the campus is still going to be really welcoming and student-friendly, but then we'll get that efficiency from the 2-story building on the back side. And then those pieces that kind of come all the way back around start to talk about not just where the students come together, so it's the library hub, but also where you're welcoming visitors and the administration space, as well as the gathering components, whether it's the gym or the cafeteria, which also set themselves up for a really great opportunity to think about drop-off after school hours of access to the gym, things like that, and just even events that might happen in that auditorium cafeteria space. We also talked about security a lot, so you'll see things as we get into the floor plans. That was another big master plan theme that carried over into the design of this, talking about a secure entry vestibule, some process of kind of the layers of security, and we'll even look at how that kind of goes from a site standpoint to then the building edge to then internal to the campus itself. The other component of that is really looking at how the scale is going to overlay those two pieces. And so what you start to kind of see is this windmill type of diagram that started to come out of this. Another thing we talked about with the site, the security was sight lines. So an ability to really be able to stand in a couple locations and look down a wing and really have a good sense of what's happening on campus. A lot of the classroom buildings are previous case studies. We studied some of them were E-shaped buildings where you might have several different wings along one corridor. So it's really, you have to move throughout that whole space to be able to see down each one of those. And some that were kind of full circle of a big donut shape, which makes it a little bit harder to circulate around. So this plan gives a lot of efficiencies from a faculty standpoint to be able to kind of see what's going on in different ways, but also keep those students really so that they can kind of feed back into that central hub. Speaking of the hub and the windmill, you'll start to see kind of a slight bit of a theme going on in here, but really how that building can then become a teaching tool. So that was one of the things that came out of the faculty meetings. A lot of the conversation with the staff talked about having the learning environment be inspiring. How can the students, if in the future there's PV, how can they really see what kind of energy savings that they're getting on there? If there is a windmill or if there's a cistern, how can we see what kind of water, how much water levels we're collecting? So how can this environment not just be a space to teach students, but a space that teaches students? And so that's something that as we continue to develop the design, you'll start to see further down the road.
Okay, can I interject?
Absolutely.
Okay, so, Mr. Toscano and Mr. Bryant, they said, Mark, this school is going to be the center of St. Edward. He said, I don't know what that means, but it's got to feel like it fits, right? He said, is it Barnes? He said, I don't know if it's Barnes. I don't know what it is, but it's got to feel like it's part of St. Edward. And so one of the first things we did was try to understand St. Edward. Well, it didn't take long, really. You can understand St. Edward in 2 seconds. When you get right to four corners, it's about the farm, right? I mean, it's a farming community now. The city's coming to it, but it's still, and it's hard. It's a farming community, and so we just started thinking about that and thinking, there's just a lot of neat things that happen in that environment that really are super, have great capability of relating to kids and teaching kids. And so we just felt like, let's just pick up on it and play with it. So you'll see, if we can back up that one slide. That's why you have pictures of windmills and grain silos. I mean, we're not going to build a grain silo, but we would love to put a windmill. In fact, I already promised Ms. Moore, I'm going to call Aaron Mother in St. Angelo and see if we can come up with a windmill for the school, because I just think it would be a great opportunity to be able to, we were the first people, everybody talks about sustainability businesses. Farmers were they're the sustainability experts. They've been sustaining things for 1,000 years. And so we're just going to take that smart sustainability and try to build it into the project. And so that's why you'll see some of those ideas about, you'll see the analogy of farmland.
That's a good point for you to talk about the site a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk about the side. And so Kate talked about the way windmill works, right, is you got the rotor and it connects to the gearbox. Okay, so the gearbox is the center of the rotor, and everything's circular because it's super functional. So we started looking at that, and it turns out that really that kind of thinking about that really helped us design the site where I believe it's going to make it very functional for the school. One of the things that we wanted to make sure we did was give ample opportunity to get in and out of the site without blocking traffic. So we came up with a way to have literally 3 drop-off spots. You can come down 15, 18, so does everybody kind of understand where they're at? Here's the 4 points, 4 points. And, right, boy, let's see that red dot, that's where it's at, 1346 down here. So we think, we feel very confident, TxDOT's going to allow us to have at least 2 entries, maybe 3. We believe that using this more northern side here, create a boulevard that would enter not only the elementary school, but eventually the junior high school. And so we're going to build part of that as part of this campus. And what it does is you follow the yellow line on the yellow school bus. And I've got over a half a mile of turn and exit, which the buses to move around. out across 1518 to start sort of a walking trail. That might actually even tie into part of our site right here, but we're just going to let that be green space in front of the school. By the way, it's going to be where our septic system has a dispersal field, so it'll always be green. But it's where we're going to create set the stage, sort of the base of the school itself. So we have parking here, we have parking here. The main entry faces 1346, and then we have ways to get into the cafeteria gym here and the main building here. We'll see how that works in the city plan. So take off. We believe it's smart to put the tension on the site, so that we're reserving for that top corner. The site itself falls 0.5% from the highest point, which is kind of in the middle towards 1580, which is pretty flat. We're going to have to pick the building up a little bit just to make sure we get out of the slope. And then everything will bring it back to the front or to the sides, the sides of it. So think about the area of the school as just a little bit of a There's a couple of really nice palm trees on this corner that will keep. Most of the rest of it is mesquite. Probably save just a few of the bigger mesquites or something just to help, so we don't have to plant a bunch of trees just to keep the side. But for the most part, most of the underbrush will be cleared out and we'll landscape. So the way that the site divide itself up. This side over here will be the pre-K kindergarten, this is that larger plan, and then this side over here will be for the kids, second and fifth grade. So they have really good field areas up to the north here. So basically the school is surrounded by the play fields, there's two loops that move traffic around and provide a lot of options for the principal to operate the school the way they drop off. So they'll have flexibility as things change, because the school will be a changing traffic pattern over time. I think as the school matures, there may be more traffic coming from the north down to the south and to the east.
So we'll walk you through the first plan. Before we get into any of the architecture, we're just going to zoom into a few of the areas on the ground floor and the classroom learning spaces, just to give you a sense of a little bit more detail. And we actually had a meeting last Friday, it was one of our last meetings, and so we've been in the process of updating some minor room changes based on that feedback that we had. But this is looking at the ground floor, and so you can see kind of the central hub becomes that library space in the center of the campus, and really allows any of the circulation to come off of that, whether you're coming from into the main entry, which is located on the south side of the plan here, and then you can move through, that was good. The wing marks pointing at right now is the pre-K, kinder, and first grade wings. So the bottom row of classrooms is all going to be pre-K, and there's a PGCE classroom there. There's 4 classrooms that run vertically on the far end. Those are the pre-K, the bottom ones are the kindergarten, and then the top ones are all the first grade classrooms. So those are really where some of those smaller kids are. And then as you move to the wing on the north side that to the campus, that's really where you start to see the second, third on the ground floor, and the fourth and fifth on the second floor. And as you kind of move to the left-hand side, you can see the library backs to the fine arts. So the fine arts program is going to have a little bit of a connection to the library, but it'll also have that connection to the cafeteria, auditorium space, which is now on that far left end. Kitchen is going to support that. The kitchen is located adjacent to some of those drop-off locations for service. And then the gym is available on that far end too for either drop-off, after-school events and things like that. So one of the things I wanted to point out is the drop-off loop that we have proposed. There's a couple locations. One's going to be admin, and one's going to be in that cafeteria entry piece as well. So as we go up to the second floor, this is just looking at that overall first floor. The second floor is really just on that back end. And so this is where the 4th grade and 5th grade students would be. One of the things you can see that we started to look at with the plan is starting to pull apart some of those classrooms from the hallway. So instead of it being just a straight shot down that space, we started to kind of pull some of these boxes, and that starts to open up some of that area to give some of those things like the collaboration areas and things like that center of that program. The other pieces that we're looking at with that computer and science, just like the art is adjacent to that hub of the library, we're going to have the computer and the science rooms on the bottom side of this wing. And it's actually going to be flipped. We'll put the science on the second floor and the computer lab on the ground floor, so the computer lab's accessible to those little kids. So if we look at the admin, this is just looking at the overview of the entry vestibule is at that first O1 spot, so just right at that center there. One of the things we talked about is there's actually an opportunity to have sort of a parent center or a space that can be used as an offsite or an additional conference room. It can be used for PTA. So it becomes a space that's just to the right of the entry vestibule, and that's located right on the right side there. And then we have, as you move around the plan, it's your reception, attendance, there's several offices. One of the strategies was really to loop around inside of that admin in a big U shape so that all the offices are on the perimeter, which gives us all daylight inside of those spaces. And then O9, which is on the far left, becomes the faculty workroom and lounge, and that's kind of the end piece of that loop. And in the center, you really get more of the core space. So there's workrooms, supply closets, some of the record storage, and then the top piece up there, number 4, is the health suite. The health is going to actually have access where students can enter it from the campus side, and then we'll provide another exit or for pickup for parents on the lobby side. So it really kind of has this double-sided exit where students can come in on the campus end and then exit through the reception area where parents are picking them up. So we'll continue to develop this admin based on some of the comments that we had from last week's meeting. And then looking at the library, this is an area where we're still starting to explore what that hub means. We've gone from it being a more flexible space to starting to look at how to zone it a little bit better. It's one of those chances where we actually can create sort of a 2-story space within this environment. So as you walk into that lower scale of the lobby and then you move into the campus, you'll actually be welcomed by a much grander library that really becomes a space to be celebrating some of that learning. There's a couple zones that'll go on within in the library. There's the circulation area, which is the round form on the bottom left of it. We'll have some smokestack spaces that are on the right-hand side. Then there's going to be space for meetings, whether you have a faculty meeting of up to 65 staff, or if you have 2 classes coming together to do a presentation, you have enough empty floor space in that room to be able to gather everybody in there. We also looked at some of the imagery and the influence that a lot of that experience gave us in the beginning and talked about what the circulation could be from the second floor down into the first floor of the library. And so that's where you're starting to see a grand stair that isn't just the circulation element, but also could be a space where you could put the whole faculty to sit on that space and have a presentation or a teaching moment for the students, or it could just be another places where the students can sit along those steps and start to use it for interaction and kind of learning. You can even see there's an image on the bottom left of the screen there where some of the students are using some of those large steps for the presentation component across from them and using that for informal learning. So there's going to be a lot of different things happening in the library. We just started to kind of create an early diagram to explain that. The storytelling is actually going to tuck underneath the stairs so that that becomes a little bit quieter and more remote from sort of the activity that might happen in the main library space. And then there'll also be technology zone within that also supports class size of students, in addition to the computer lab that is adjacent to the library space. The final part, kind of the zoom in, was really looking at one of those classroom clusters, so how the classrooms pull apart to create a little bit more synergy within the circulation, and then also looking at an enlarged classroom plan. So right now we're looking just at one of the kindergarten floor plans, and so we'll have book pack storage within the classroom. There will be a small amount of storage. Each of those kinders will have restrooms. You'll remember during our master planning we talked about this as one of those things that we're doing at a lot of the other sites, going in and putting kinders that have their own restroom. So this is the same thing here, and it sets the stage for what's going to come in a lot of those other renovation projects. And then looking at one of the upper grade level classrooms, so there'll be restrooms that are throughout the hallways of the upper grade level spaces. Upper grade level is 1st through 5th graders, but older children. And then they'll have a flexible classroom as well, technology on one wall. They'll have sight lines and windows out looking to the outside, seeing some of that green space in that play area, and then having cubbies along another area. And then we're going to look for ways to kind of pull that classroom apart. And we talked about actually, there won't be sinks within the upper level classrooms, but we talked about actually putting a sink in some of those collab spaces, so that can almost become a little bit of an arts area, or if there's some project that you're doing, whether it's like project-based learning or something else where you just need to be able to get access to water, 6 of those classrooms really had that one single location versus putting a bunch of 6 in each classroom. So that was something else that we talked about on that last week. And then, of course, the gym and the cafeteria will be pretty similar program functionality to what you have in some of the other newer elementary schools, large spaces that support all those drop-off. And we've also talked about, you'll see it in some of the other diagrams that Stephen's going to go over, some components that start to talk about the connection between indoor and outdoor. So how the cafeteria might open up to some outdoor porch areas and how some of our circulation components also are released into that. So with that, I think one of the things we wanted to talk to you about, or at least mention, is that we also had an opportunity to go out to the community and meet with several of the community members and had them do the same kind of visual listening on those top images. You can see them participating in that. And in this time, we were talking a little bit more about the architectural components. So it was less about the program and the functionality of the interior of the space, but more about what did the building mean to their community and how this become really a new symbol of what the community is, because it will be the largest building that is in that area. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Stephen and let you go through either some of the images and talk about how that influenced our students.
So as Kate said, we have meetings with teachers and really talk about the inside of the school, because the inside of the school really belongs to the teachers and students, and the outside really does belong to the community out there. And so about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we went out there, had this meeting, and these are just some of the images that they really kind of honed in on. And some of the things that they really talked about was lighting, some of the materials we had in the images, the limestone, the exposed metal, and also shade overhang is very important to them out there. And kind of these porch spaces they really enjoyed, and these kind of outdoor learning spaces, and maybe made gardens for the school, and getting kids knowing where all the food comes from and they eat, things like that. And also, some of these sisters really like it, because it really does talk about the community they have out there. And so with that, kind of going to some of, I guess, the overall material palette that we have for the school, limestone, and we're using that very sparingly around the school. It's kind of as I highlight the kind of important space that's going on right there. So it's kind of these lighter beige areas you see right here at the entry. So those kind of breakout spaces that he had talked to, we went to pop those areas up, because the limestone on those, and the kind of breakout areas in the back of the upper school, same thing there. And then also some insulated metal panels, and what that is, it's a panel that's basically already a pre-finished wall when it comes to the site. So that's metal on the outside, insulation in the middle, metal on the inside. So it's a finished wall basically on both sides, and put them up out there, and it's already a wall. You know, it basically comes to the site pre-assembled. So it's a pretty quick thing to put up. It really speeds up construction. It's pretty cost effective. It's also very energy efficient assemblies as well. And so kind of these gray areas, so basically that's basically most of the wall space next to those panels. And to kind of highlight this central hub right here, we went and changed the material there so it feels different. It is a different space inside. And so we're putting in this 410 steel, and what that is basically a natural finish to the steel, and it kind of patinas over time. So there's no painting, there's no coming back and retouching it. It just ages over time, and it gets this kind of natural patina. So if you think of a copper, you put up copper, it turns green over time. That kind of green finish is what actually protects the copper from the weather. It's the same thing with this material right here. And so kind of what Kate said, the teachers really wanted this to be a teaching tool. And so kind of some of the sustainable features we like to include in the school would be solar panels. Kind of showing them on the gym roof back here, because they're large in this area. Then these two kind of pop-up roofs back here in the upper school. So those kind of raised the roofs, they face straight south, which is the perfect orientation to do solar. There's a lot of options out there for doing solar as far as rebates go, and there's also a program at CPS they're bringing out shortly where basically CPS pays for the panels on the roof. There is no upfront cost to the school district, but the way they get their money back is they sell that power back to you at a reduced rate from what CPS would sell you power off the grid. So if power off the grid's $1, this would be I guess like 95 cents. So it comes back to you at a cheaper cost. And also as part of that, as part of having the panels, we have kind of a screen within the school. Teachers can pull this up in the classroom, you can have it there in the library, and it shows you live data of basically how much power the school's using, how much power are these panels producing. How much water is that saving? How many trees is this accounting for? So it's a very live, interactive thing teachers can use in the classroom. The next thing would be water collection. And so as Mark said, a windmill is something that we are very interested in putting in the school. So right here you have a very large roof area with this kind of central hub. So the idea is to catch all that water there at the front of the school, put some cisterns in there, put the windmill, and basically have the windmill actually function and actually pump water out of those cisterns. So it's not just there for art and decoration, it's actually functioning windmill. And along with the windmill, with the cistern idea, we're kind of playing with the idea of putting the actual water gauge inside the school. So if the cistern has 15 feet of water in it, that gauge is going to read 15 feet of water. The sprinkler system turns on, the students can actually see that water go down as the grass is being watered outside. And as it rains, they can see that gauge actually fill back up as it's raining outside. And so it's another teaching tool in having the actual building be a overall teaching element. And just two other things is actually shading the exterior windows. Glass is the most inefficient part of the exterior of the building. So let's go to shade those on the east, the south, and west sides. And then also LED lighting, save up to about 17% plus or minus compared to your kind of typical lighting we have here. And it's very cost effective now. It's almost cost neutral. And the payback is getting shorter and shorter as time goes on. And so now we've kind of covered some big picture ideas. Go ahead and jump into the model and take a look at the actual building itself here.
One of the things that we discussed was that in making the building energy efficient was also cost effective. So the effort is to make sure that we integrate all the best practices of tapping into energy efficiency, but not doing it at a cost to the district, making it have a good payback period and one that's functional as well. Really, I think the community liked the idea of the cisterns, especially once they've been up, they'd be functional and not just decorative. They're actually collecting rainwater or water off the condensation off the AC units. That's actually going to help supplement the irrigation of the surrounding area. So it's really like.
So that's a great point. Sustainable design is not really about cost anymore, it's just about smart design. That's really all it is. It's just smart design. You're putting in windows in your building anyways, you may as well locate them in those kind of smart places. And that's really the goal of this book. It's not really just to kind of put them in there, it's being very smart in how we use those things. So this is kind of a bird's eye view just to give you an overall perspective of the school there. As Kate pointed out, this is kind of your lower school wing over here, so your pre-K through first grade, and then the two-story upper school wing there. As you remember, this kind of central spot really is the hub of the school, where everything comes together there in that space there. So it's popped up as the highest portion of the school, and it has that accented material on there to really distinguish it from the rest of the school. But then these kids are pretty, small little kids, and so walking into a space that's going to be 35, 40 feet tall there at the entry is probably not very welcoming for those kids. So it slows down as you kind of come towards the entry there, and it gets down to a one-story entry once you enter there. So the kids are actually walking into more of like a 10 or 15-foot entry as opposed to a 45-foot space in the library. And then, so what that does, it kind of guides you into the school and welcomes you into the school. And that ceiling really kind of grows with the school. So as you go up those steps you saw earlier, that ceiling is going straight up there with you and leading you to the upper school and kind of upper grades back there. So it really kind of is a guiding element and kind of a unifier in the school as well. And so whenever the parents pull in, they pull it in this drive right here you saw earlier in the site plan. And so that the kind of cistern and the windmill, it really kind of is a welcoming element for the parents in the morning. And so as they pull around that drive, they drop off their kids. But they'll still have, that kind of entry element there to really to the children's area and the playground and the back area of the school, you still get that sense of the hub there. It's the one consistent element from basically every single side of the school is that hub right there.
What's adjacent to the back of the school?
To the back,
Right, where you're at?
you mean
Yeah, what's
adjacent as far as the site behind you?
Right,
It's all open farmland and
Open
single family
farmland.
houses. Yep.
but does it lead, is it, a road back there somewhere? Just all farmland? And that farmland run into what?
Well, that farmland runs to the north all the way to I-10. but
I-10,
The very edge of the property will be a sort of a boulevard that'll be the drive that gets you from the 1518 over to the junior high when it gets built or down into the, drop down into the others. But where we're standing right here happens to be in a, basically, completely considered back.
Yeah, what my point is, how easy for assets for someone to come from that field onto the campus?
Well, that's a good point. We'll go back to the site plan. Let me answer that question so I can show this. I'll show you the site and we'll talk about that because I've got some ideas about that security. Kate alluded to the layers of security and I'll show you how that's going to work.
Thank you.
And so we go down to the upper school play area, which is on the other side of the. Over here you have the gym over here to the right hand, and we're proposing to cover this first basketball court right here. Since this is going to be a new center for the community there, you can see people coming on the weekend kind of using this basketball court and it being a real kind of asset for them out there. And also a playground for the upper school, so that we have an age-appropriate playground for all the kids out there. And then also a learning area, outdoor learning area, outside the upper school there as well. And then loop back around to the bus drop-off area. This is the bus loop right here. And the entrance to the cafeteria is directly off that, so in the morning kids can go in there to eat, or in the afternoon they can queue up underneath this outdoor canopy as the bus pulls up. Any other questions or any comments or?
Okay. So I kind of got to turn around here. Yeah. Oh, that's okay, so let's talk about security. So we were standing looking at the back of the school right here. This is that playground. So this is the entry off of 1518 and then 1346, and here's the entry off 1346. When you come in, basically you're looking at the main entry of the school. So let's talk about security. This first level of security will be the perimeter of the side here. So this will be fenced to be secure. Now, off of that fence, we're talking about adding some gates in a couple of key locations. One would be a gate that would close this side off totally. Another set of gates would be right here so that you could allow the community use of this part after hours. But during the school day, some of these gates start to close so that you've got a layer of security that's all the way around the edge. And this is fenced all the way around the perimeter here, and then basically around the perimeter here. So what I think works nicely about this is this classroom thing provides second to fifth grade play area from the pre-K first grade play area. And there's a hard top that's talking a little bit about this enclosure over that basketball court you can see right there. This is the service access right here. So that's your first layer of security. Second layer of security is the outside edge of the building itself. And of course, Kate picked up and talked a little bit about this vestibule. When you walk in that vestibule, you can't go into the rest of the school. You've got to go to a window, show them your ID, and then they, if we design it this way, they can invite you in through a door, or at least they force you to go through the office before you get to the rest of the school. So they have a chance to check you before you can. The rest of these doors, we can set up all the perimeter doors to where at 8:15 or whenever the school day starts, they lock them. So nobody's going to get in from the rest of the school. They've got 2 layers of security now to cross. They've got to cross from the fence, and now they have to cross from some of the doors. Third layer of security is actually these classroom wings themselves. When the kids are in the classroom wings, one of the things we've talked about with the staff is we can close these wings off with a pair of doors that are open all the time. Principal has a problem, they need to go into lockdown, they press a button. That set of doors closes, so the classroom wings themselves get locked off. So that's your third level of security. Of course, the fourth level of security is in the classroom itself, and that's the training that your principal does with your teachers. They gather the kids, they put them in they hide them in a part of the room that is, nobody can see them, and we have areas inside those rooms. So we really have 4 levels of security within the school, which I think is pretty unique. We didn't design schools like that 10 years ago. We just didn't. We would have had the ability to walk right into this cafeteria, any time of the day. We used to build gymnasiums off outside. So you had to go outside to get them out. Now we're designing schools. Kids don't have to go outside to access any parts of the school. They're always accessing it. So now we have the ability that after hours, somebody wants to rent the gym, lock down the gym, they get in, they have a parking lot, let them skate over, or pick a gate and let them open. They have the ability to come here, park, go in and out of the gym. They never had to access the rest of the school. If somebody wants to use the cafeteria, they just extend that one more, a little bit farther over, you lock down here, they have the ability to access. They've got 2 parking lots now to access the cafeteria. They can come into the cafeteria, they can't get into the rest of the school. It's just a matter of a couple of rules here to make sure we have control. This electronic access controls now is really, it's really easy to do those kinds of operational things. A lot easier than it was when we just worried about everybody. So we're going to work with the staff to hopefully get this campus to where you can use your access badge or or whatever the district is on that basis.
I have a quick question. A lot of times, when we look back at schools that we've had in our district, like for example, Harmony, I know we've changed a lot of stuff over there, we can see better, but for a long time, when you approach the school, when you go through the doors, it's wall, and then just the doorway into the office, feeling like maybe, there was a window there. Anyways, but, there's not a lot of visibility in the older schools as far as people that are approaching the school. When you talk about the vestibule thing here, and you're saying, someone comes in, they're not allowed in unless they're buzzing in. But prior to that, I noticed that the cisterns were out kind of in front of that area. And how much visibility is there window-wise, or do you have to wait until someone enters that area to know that someone's there?
Well, one of the reasons we located the principal's office in that corner,
Is it there?
she had, I don't know if you noticed the model, she has a corner window.
I didn't see, I was going to have to go back to that.
She sees right out, she'll be able to sit here at her desk and she'll be able to watch that front driveway, and then she can watch whoever is walking up from the parking lot out of her.
Is that the only, or are there other windows?
Every,
Said all the way around the windows?
every office around this yeah, up front.
Floor to ceiling,
Deputy Dog, come on. Every office around the perimeter, that's one of the reasons we put the offices around the perimeter, so they have the opportunity for windows to be able to look out and monitor. So I think we've got a good opportunity to provide a really secure school without having not to be able to see things. I think it's going to be a school that has a lot of transparency, but it's also very safe.
Also, all of our schools right now have security cameras that are trained towards the entrance. And so the staff has that constant monitor. We bought separate monitors just for them to monitor that if they need to or want to. And as well as the principal can get access to any of those security cameras anytime they need to.
Yeah, on the one.
On all the campuses, yeah. But not just that one monitor, it's all web-based. They just go into that program off the web and can pull up that camera.
I'll take playgrounds too, so they have all those.
Yeah, so it's multiple levels that we have access even now, even under the older campus.
Oh, good.
Now, it's not the same as seeing it visually yourself, but at least you have multiple areas. Plus, if something does happen, we have it there under security.
This is that corner window that Mark was talking about, that's the central box right there, you can view out to the front, and view right or view out the parking lot, the entrance there.
And this is where the schematic design, just coming to the next schematic design, they feel really confident about the floor plan, and we really feel good about the direction of the building. So we still got a lot of details, windows, placement. I mean, we don't have windows in every single room just yet. There's a few things like that that we're working on. But we really like and feel like given this more great school to be able to extend the community values to their kids. And I think if you want to have your parents as a partner in education, the best thing to do is to extend their values, make their values your values, and make that cross connect. And that's what I think this campus has a chance to do. One of the things I really like about this landscape buffer in front, I mean, just visualize sort of grass and a few trees, and we're actually going to, we're going to have to excavate quite a bit of dirt to make this foundation look right. We're going to take we're not going to haul any dirt off the site. We're going to take some of that dirt and create some landscape berm so that you won't even really see the cars as you drive up. They'll be behind the berm. But what the berm will be is sort of the base of the school. So you'll have this green base for the school. And there's just a lot of things happening accessibility, security, functionality, building community values.
It's very beautiful. Y'all done a great job. I know, it's so giddy back there.
There's a lot of work to this point.
Well, it's been an intense 6 weeks since the board of the bond passed. I'll tell you that much. Thanks to those. Pretty intense time for us. We had to because they were going out for vacation. These guys have been great. They've met with us every single week as we kind of work through this process. And now it's time for us to go into our hole and really start digging into the details. And then by the time the teachers come back in the fall, we're going to have details and we'll start working through all the details and things. And through to finishing up the documents. That's all we got.
That's perfect. That's beautiful.
Any other questions? Talk about security, talk about.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Can we stay in
Once you're in, you don't leave.
Yeah, that's it. Once you're here, you're here.
I hate like these guys, I can make a long mistake, they were all falling.
I can turn around.
They used to be so well maintained back here. I don't know what the variable is. I'm sure.
I have no idea.
No, I'm not gonna leave. I'm taking the block. I'm playing with it. Yeah, Steven said, don't leave the block so we can find the school.
He's putting us on blast. I wrote him. He's putting us on blast.
Sure.
Don't you dare go over this. Downtown Dallas. You were exactly. We're at a plan. We'll be able to see that. That's we got out.
Carlos.
The plane was dying.
All right. I sent you an email.
She was with me. Yes, she left. We got out.
Yes, sir. All right.
Are you talking? Come home. Oh, yeah.
The kids were off with the shovel, they're all behind me.
Have you never had these birthday from me? What's this? I don't know. Well, it's Billy? Man, yeah, and they're green guys. No, it's your cake. Oh, wow, you're we all gonna go eat. These are cheaper. Right? Or you're still maybe Oreos? No, this is Hey, Connie is hoping to trade you. Dude, we're trading one for one. Hang on, yeah, then I put my finger over there and came back with a no. You don't like
Everybody always got to figure somewhere this morning, I'm saying, yeah, people think all this morning. I give her a couple hours, that's all.
That's it, huh? You know,
Oh, that night, yeah,
Now I know. Okay.
No one to talk to me about that.
You want?
Sure.
I have vanilla too. Okay.
You ready?
Go for it.
Are you gonna look at the stuff around that business?
You don't have a 3D budget. You want to see,
I don't want to.
Let's go to the budget.
That was awesome.
you don't want to see me moving around.
No, I'm not you up there. What are the numbers are off this lady, we'll do it right there.
Well, we're gonna try to do this pretty straightforward. Judy will probably, as she takes over more and more of this stuff, she'll probably get stuff more.
I had to have somebody help me do my house.
Judy and I are gonna do a tag team, in the transition as I'm moving on out. She's gonna be taking over more and more. So I'm gonna start it off, give you a really, inspiring opening statements, and then she'll take over and go through the details of the budget itself. And then I'll conclude with another inspiring statement.
Kind of like a trot, you can do the opening and then you go to the
My point in life, I'm doing good things this process. Sam's the man. Hey, you like it off. All right, well, here we are again. We're going to be going through information on the general operating budget. Basically, I just want to make sure that you have kind of the foundation of where we're at, what we're doing, and give you opportunity to see where we're at, and in particular, be able to ask any questions you have of us. We are in the process of developing the whole budget, but the really core of the budget that we present to you and for your consideration and review and adoption is the general operating budget. And that will be for this coming fiscal year, 2016 and 17. Our fiscal year for East Central is September 1 through August 31st of each school year. And we've kind of gone through this before, and it's very fundamental, but it's important to just realize there's really two major parts to that budget. We have the revenues and the expenditures. And so, as Judy goes through the nuts and bolts of the budget as far as where we're at right now, she'll go over information about the various sources of revenue that we got coming in or anticipate coming into the district. And where we're at on the expenditure side is what most people spend the time on is building the budget for what they need to spend to support their programs. All of these are estimated, that the budget is going to be estimated on information that we get. We get data from TA, we get data from the appraisal, Bear County Appraisal District. We're going to get data from our own updated teams data that we're continuing to work on and refine from this past year. We'll use information from the demographic study that was done as part of this facility assessment. So there's a lot of resources that we use. But those resources are dynamic and not static. They are going to continue to change. And as that information changes, we'll have to refine the budget. And as usual, I give you a little disclaimer. The expenditure side is still fairly rough. It's actually further along than normal at this time of year, so I feel very good about this. Judy's done an excellent job of putting a lot of information together in what we're going to be seeing tonight. We're also further along because the salaries have already been adopted by the board, so we have a much better idea of actual costs. And so all those things are really helping it come into focus more and more. And so what you're going to see tonight is going to be not exactly what we'll have presented to you in August, but pretty close. Pretty close. And so I'm going to let Judy go through the revenue projections. Do this talk or? Whatever you want.
Okay, thank
Just
you.
tell me what to do.
Oh, I love that. Anyway, first thing I want to say is that, Roland, you have made me feel very old today because I think your mother was in labor the first day I started here at East Central. So, 42 years later, you know, it's just amazing. So, anyway, I feel
Wow,
I am older than 30.
Judy, we should buy you the case.
Okay, our revenue projections that we have, total amount is $82,905,858. It's broken down between local funds, state funds, federal funds, and other funds. And it's kind of sad to say that every year, more and more, it's the local dollars are picking up our budget. Last year, the current year we're at right now, 56% came from the 61% came from the state. This year, 56% is coming. Last year, 39% came from the local taxpayers. This year it's going to be 44%. So that's just the trend that happens is because your appraised value goes up. And when the appraised value goes up, what happens is the state doesn't have to pay as much. Whether that's right or wrong, that's what the situation is right now. But so we have been really blessed with our appraised value going up. That has been probably a very good savings for the central, but it's also means that the state is paying less and less. So we're looking at like the local revenue would be $35 million, the state revenue is $46 million, federal is $1.2 million, and $500,000 other. Basically, on your local revenue, the sources that we get our money from there is your taxes, your penalty and interest, the all very important athletic revenues that you get. So we're thinking we're going to do really good in our new district this year because we're going to have people closer to come to see our partners win the games and we're losing. So anyway, we're very optimistic, and then also the money comes from your interest on your CDs and your money markets, and not a whole lot, but it's getting a tiny bit better, but not like it used to be. Years ago, you could almost hire 20 teachers with what you got from interest. At a time, we got 13% interest. Well, that hasn't happened in years and years. So now we're lucky if we get 1.5 teachers, 2 teachers at the most interest. And then what happens, our state revenue comes from our ADA, and we are increasing our ADA, we think, by 2.8% this year. And we're also increasing our allotment from career tech and bilingual by 5%, but we're leaving our special ed allotments alone because they fluctuate. They might be good one year, they might be stagnant. So we found in the last few years it's just better to leave it alone. So we're going to get $46 billion, and the more the kids come to school, and it not only helps them for learning environment, but it helps our pocketbook. That's where we'll gain more money to get kids to attend school. And then the federal revenue is $1,220,000, and that is from SHARS, the MAC program, ROTC, and indirect costs from our federal programs. And the 500, the 5,000, which is from other proceeds, which is usually sale of equipment that we have. So that's where we think we're gonna get our revenue projections from. Proposed tax rate, we have to spend $1.04. And then we feel like our interest is sinking. Now this is an estimate, will be 0.245 for a total tax rate of 1.285, which honestly is 2.45, which we are
Right now, yes. And so what we're looking at is that, we had, the first estimates we had were based on values that we had from the appraisal district back in the fall. And between then and now, the values are coming in much higher than anticipated. So what we thought was going to be possibly as high as 16 cents, and then we thought, well, maybe it's really going to be for the total bonds. And then we began to get some updated data in March, and we thought, no, it's probably going to be closer to 12 cents. And now with the updated appraised values, it's going to be possibly very little, like 2 to 4 cents increase because of the bonds. And that's for half of the bond sale, not for the whole thing.
So our INS last year was 22.5.
22.5.
We've now sold half the bonds. And we're projecting to go from 22.5 to 24.5, which means a 2-cent tax increase for $43 million. Remember, we sold the bonds, communicated with the community, we thought overall the 86 million would be 16 cents. But we're sitting at 2 cents for half that. Yeah. So
We'll find out for sure what it is Thursday bonds actually sell. So we'll find out how much that $43,050,000 in bonds will actually cost us. So based on the values that we have right now, and those are conservative, quite honestly, we backed off of what the most recent preliminary values are. We feel like it's going to be somewhere like this. We'll have a better feeling for that after the bond sale on Thursday. And then on July 20th, we get certified, we actually get the certified values from the appraisal district, and that'll give us the numbers we really will be using for the whole budget. So our revenue will probably change a little bit between what we have here today and what we give you in August at the budget tax year.
So that doesn't necessarily mean if it's like 2 cents now with half of it, that it's going to be 4 cents or something. It could be.
yeah, I mean, it depends on market conditions, but it all
Right.
stay the same. I mean, we could be
We're
looking at
still
4 or
in a
5
good
cent
area.
tax increase, by the time whole bonds to versus 16. Of course, we can't anticipate depending on that, but right now, the first half that we thought was going to be,
Right.
much more than 2 cents.
If the appraised values go up another 10+% like they did this year, then it could be even less. It could be a wash. They don't know. So you could possibly not have any increase or very little increase because of that. Also, since we're splitting those bonds in half this year and sell the other half next year, the bond market may change. It may stay where it is now. It doesn't sound like it's going to change a whole lot between now and next year. It may go up a small amount, but not much. But you could have something that happens in the world that's catastrophic in nature and have an impact. Maybe they even go up, a little bit more, maybe even bring it down. I hope it doesn't go down because if it goes down much lower than they are now, it's not going to go down.
We're kind of in a situation, you'll recall the last couple of years, there was a time of the year where you guys lowered the tax rate on the INS side by a penny on a couple of different occasions. Had we not sold the bonds, we would probably be in that situation now, which is in part what's contributed to the tax increase of over 2 cents, which is much less than we projected.
The reality is that even without the bond sales, that INS side would go down probably at least 2 to 4 minutes.
I remember we were talking, and our rates would be some, couldn't go as high as 143 or so, remember?
So, I think you'd rather be wrong on that side high than wrong on the low side. And we were being very conservative. We also used projections of like 5% growth in appraised values instead of what had been really quite historically in the last 5 years, been closer to around 8 to 10%. But once again, I'd rather project low as far as that growth and come in wrong on the low side.
One other quick point I want to make before we move on, we bonds are selling Thursday, and if you'll recall, we had admitted, you guys had added some more policy that Cross Financial, our financial advisors had suggested to us might help our ratings. One of those was to maintain a minimum fund balance of 2.5 months operation cost rate. So in doing some of that work as well as the work we've been doing in the district, showing an annually increasing fund balance over time, we're very pleased to be notified last week actually that we've got an enhanced bond rating, or an enhanced rating, so we're backed by the state, which really gives us an optimal situation where we get a really favorable rate for our bond sale Thursday. So we're pretty optimistic that we're going to get very, very competitive rate of that bond sale as a result.
What's interesting is that the school bonds, as long as we follow certain rules and guidelines, are backed by the state of Texas. So you, on the surface, you always get a AAA rate, which is the highest you can get for that kind of bond. But then they also rate you on how you really are financially. So it's kind of a dual rating system to that. And what we had been was an A plus under standards 4. We weren't even rated by Moody. And so now we got rated by both Moody and by Standards & Poor's. Standards & Poor's was at AA minus, which is the next step up. And Moody's went to a AA3, which for them is close to. We're basically about two steps away from being AAA on our own. And so it's very encouraging. What that means is that could open up more markets for us, more people in theory, and I think in reality will be bidding on that or looking at us as an attractive investment. And also because of that competition, it should translate into lower rates for opportunities. So we hope that's the truth, and we'll find out in Thursday. We believe that we're still going to be one of the lowest taxing school districts in the area.
Our expenditures, we're very pleased to say that we're going to be a balanced budget this year. Our expenditures will equal our revenue, even with the raise that we're able to give our employees, and even with the different items that we do need to do this year. But with our appraised value and our taxes collection going up, and with our increase in our ADA, we feel like we will have a balanced budget for expenditures with revenue. And on our expenditures, 83% of our expenditures of $82,879,000 is for payroll. That's the biggest bulk of where your money goes. And then what we also have is about 7% that is for contracted services, which is utilities, contracted services that you might need for your buildings, anything with purchasing contracted. And then we have supplies and materials and other operating expenses, as well as if we have some capital outlay that we have budgeted. We don't have budgeted right now. Some of the programs that we're thinking of bringing to the board to approve later on, and they'll be discussed later. But we are still very happy and confident that we're getting a balanced budget this year. And so our expenditures will be around $82 million, meaning the same as the revenue. And back in May, y'all approved the salary package, which has really helped in preparing this budget in a timely manner and for staff to be able to know what they're going to receive. And so we had a little over, almost $2 million was the salary package that cost. And then we had quite a few new positions that the new positions cost us $2,600,000. And of the new positions, we have approximately 30 new teaching staff, ranging from special ed, career tech, needed just additional teachers at schools that are needed because of enrollment. And then we also hired around 13 new paraprofessionals. Most of those are special ed and DSL. I believe that was the concern that everyone had, so we met that mark. And then still, with hiring all that staff, that really took quite a bit of money to do, but we're able to do it. It still stands in balance.
This is just another way to look at all that and break it down by type of expenditure. You can see that the bulk of it is payroll for contract services, supplies, and other. On the fixed assets, just want to go through that real briefly. We have fixed assets are going to be anything that is $5,000 or greater in value than the person. And so, for example, 500,000 of the $1,502,250 that's in this current proposed budget, out of that 500,000 is just earmarked for capital improvements and facilities. We're going to discuss a few with you now and possibly and as well as later meetings, possible programs that we would like for you to consider for us to go forward with. But the other $1,202,000 is really your vehicles, various equipment that costs more than $5,000 is really what the bulk of that is. And the majority of that $1 million, quite honestly, about almost 800,000 of that is for buses. And we've been doing that the last several years to continue to try to replace and replenish an aging fleet that we have. So as Katie was saying,
As I was saying, I don't know, I kind of feel like Sunday to share up here. Are you seeing? No.
It's a breakout outside.
I probably can't sing any worse than he did.
Like I said, the total revenue is projected to be $82 million, and the total expenditures also $82 million, and so we are balanced, and right now we're balanced budget to present to y'all. Those numbers could change a little bit, but however they change, it will still stay as a balanced budget.
The last area that we always like to share with you is where we're at on our fund balance, and gave you a little bit of a history of how our fund balance has grown over the last several years. This current year, 2015-16, even with all the capital improvement projects that we're doing, because we honestly believe that we're going to get a minimum of 3% of our appropriated expenditures unspent, probably closer to 4%, quite honestly. It'll probably still bring us into a net positive. We believe we'll grow at least 500,000. It could be as high as $1 million, depending on where we're at as far as the end of August 31st. It's all based on the calendar. So that's a very positive thing. What we've done for the last several years is bring you a balanced budget, but also make you aware of some capital improvement projects we would like to bring forward to you throughout the year. And we'd like to do that again this year. Part of those capital improvement projects are actually part of what we had shared with the community whenever we were talking about the bond. And so out of that $86.1 million bond, that really just covers the core of the bond programs. But we also talked about improvements to the area for dance and cheer. We said that we were going to pay for that out of fund balance. We talked about doing some work at each of the different campuses, part of that being paid for out of fund balance. So, for example, the air conditioning of the gyms at the elementary schools, we're We said we'd pay for that out of fund balance. We said that we were going to pay for the improvements or renovations to John Glenn and to ECDC out of fund balance. And so that's still the plan. So we have basically a 4 or 5 year plan on how those would lay out. And even though, for example, you have the bulk of the work taking place right now on the new pre-K through 5 elementary school in the St. Hedwig area and Performing Arts Center, we also are going to begin to engage these architects also in the design of these other improvements for the additions and renovations to the elementary schools and the Salado Intermediate School. The cost of that design work will begin to be implemented into this year's budget. So as we begin to get a better feel for those costs and the timeline for those improvements, we'll come back to you and present that information to you. And if you approve that, we'll go forward with that work. They also have some high dollar projects that need to be done. Central office roof really needs to be replaced. Doesn't look like it till it rains, and then you have some problems. It's mostly in the superintendent's office, so we haven't been too worried about it lately, but I did notice a leak in my area, so it's time to step up.
Priorities.
That's the priorities. So there are some things like that. We're going to be doing some improvements to the ag facilities that will cost some money. It'll probably be somewhere at least around $50,000+ by the time it's all said and done. And that's needed because of some improvements to bins that need to be done. The barn is fading badly, it needs to be painted, and some other work that needs to be done over there. We have so those are some of the major projects that we're going to be bringing to you. There'll be some other, there'll be we're going to continue to have asphalt projects. I heard about to say that. There'll be continue to be some asphalt projects this year. This coming year will be at Heritage, probably Oakcrest, and possibly in the lakes, depending on what kind of long is going to end up costing. We're looking at some possibilities of improving the entryway to Legacy, and that would have to be done probably next summer. We get a little bit better access coming out of it. So there's a number of projects that are in the planning stages. We don't know the true cost of them, which is part of why we're not trying to just guess at it and put it in the budget. But those are the types of capital improvement projects that we're talking about bringing to you throughout the year. That process requires us to do a delivery method in which you give us approval on how we're going to go out and procure those goods and services for those facility improvements. If you don't approve it, we don't go out. So there's nothing that we will do without your being aware of it, without you being approval of it.
Well, as always, y'all do a great job, and I'm excited that we continue to see our fund balance grow, and you guys always do such a great job of being very conservative. I think that's one thing that we all can go out and say to people is that we have people working up here that are very, very conservative with our dollars, and for that reason is why we're the commission. So I can't thank y'all enough.
Well, thank you, but I really want to say this is not just a Jim and Judy budget. It is a budget developed by every principal, every supervisor, every director, everyone that we met with. We're very careful with their budget. They only brought what they needed, and the health program, nobody was extravagant. They were all very careful of what they want to budget. So it's really a budget brought to you by many people who are very careful of what they do, and I really appreciate that.
I appreciate you sharing that with us. And you know what, Roland, we need to let them know that we talk about this at, many of the meetings, and that it is at the campus level. Everyone being so good about their dollars, and the principals and everybody convey that to their staff. And I think that is just a joint shared family pay that they do at the campus level. So thanks for bringing that up, Judy. That's very true.
And in conclusion, All figures presented in this presentation are estimates and not final.
I know that's his favorite part of the
Yeah,
meeting.
that's my favorite part.
That's his
He
inspiration.
talks about it every year, comparing.
He doesn't have a shirt made already.
This is the last time I get to say it. We are continuing to work and we'll refine it, and whenever we bring that to you at the August 18th meeting, it will be even more refined. We'd like to say that Judy is right, that this is not a single or even this two-person project. This is many, many people working towards this. But it is Judy that brings it all together. Just to make sure y'all are aware of that, but it's always important to recognize the work that she does.
Yes, one question, Mr. Sullivan, where are we at in CMO for the technology build? Still back for next week?
Yes, well, we're supposed to do a punch on it on Thursday. Got pushed back on today to Thursday. They really are staffing it. In the past, I've had a few of these projects where at this point where I'm having to kick people in their area to keep them moving and make sure that they are going to get completed on time. I was over there last week on Thursday. Went back by there on Friday again, and they had a lot of people working. Had about 6 electricians on a project that size. That's pretty amazing. So they were pretty great. I was scared to 6 electricians. It worked. And so I'm confident we'll get that done. The majority of the work will be done probably by the end of this week. We probably won't be getting moved into there until next week. That's it.
Thank you. Thanks, Judy.
Thank you, everybody. Awesome. Oh, so, right here. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, ma'am. So moved or something?
Second? Meeting is adjourned by multiple board meetings.